Let's talk about that security camera on your wall. I'm going to tell you something. It's not a toaster. And believe me, that's a much, much bigger deal than you probably think.
Okay, so here's the number one thing you've got to get your head around. Your security camera, it's a computer. Seriously. And that one simple fact, well, that's the key to this massive cybersecurity threat that almost everyone just completely overlooks. So, look at this. It really nails the difference between what we think we have and what's actually there. On the one hand, you think, oh, it's just an appliance, right? Like a toaster with a lens. But the reality? Nope. It's a full-on Linux computer. And that changes everything. And here's why that matters so much. Just like the computer on your desk, that little camera has a CPU. It's got RAM. It's running an actual operating system. But here's the kicker. Unlike your toaster that you unplug or your laptop you might shut down, this computer, it's plugged into your network, always on, always watching 24/7. It never sleeps. Okay, I know what you're thinking. This all sounds a little theoretical, right? Well, back in 2016, the whole world got a very, very real wake-up call about the power of these little computers. They were used to launch one of the biggest cyber attacks we've ever seen. It was called the Mirai Botnet attack. And this was a massive shock to the system for the entire cybersecurity world. It proved, once and for all, just how much power was hiding inside these simple, everyday devices. The scale of this thing was just staggering. A piece of malware, Mirai, just went out and scanned the entire internet. It ended up infecting over 600,000 devices. And what were most of them? You guessed it, cheap, unsecure security cameras and DVRs. So what did the malware do with all those cameras? It turned them into something called a botnet. And the best way to picture a botnet, just think of it as a zombie army. Seriously. Each infected camera is like a little zombie, just sitting there, mindlessly waiting for a command from its master. And then the command came. This zombie army, over 500,000 cameras strong, all started blasting junk traffic at one single target, a company called Diane DNS. And the result? Huge chunks of the internet just disappeared. We're talking Netflix, Twitter, Reddit, poof, knocked offline for hours. So here's the punchline, the really crucial part. This massive attack, it wasn't some shadowy group of hackers with supercomputers. No, it was an army of regular old security cameras. And the reason it worked so well was just shockingly simple. The vast majority of these things were still using the easy-to-guess factory default passwords. You know the ones, admin and admin. Okay, so that's the what. But what about the how? How do attackers actually get control of these things in the first place? Well, it turns out they have a pretty standard playbook, and we're going to break down their 3 most common moves.
All right, play number 1 is something called a pivot attack. And this one exploits the one thing that makes a security camera totally unique, where it is, right? They're often stuck outside in places that are anything but secure, which makes them a super easy physical target. I mean, check out how simple this is. An attacker literally just walks up to a camera in a parking lot. They unplug the network cable from the camera, and they plug that same cable right into their own laptop. And just like that, if that network port isn't locked down properly, they've pivoted from the outside world, from the parking lot, directly into the company's private internal network. The camera becomes a physical doorway.
Okay, but what if the attacker can't just walk up to the camera? That brings us to play number 2 in their book, port forwarding. You see, for years, this was the standard way you'd set up remote viewing. You would basically just punch a hole in your network's firewall to let the camera talk straight to the open internet. It's a practice that, today, we know is super insecure, and for a very good reason.
But you might be thinking, there are billions of devices online. How on earth would a hacker find your one specific camera with that one little hole punched in its firewall? I mean, it's like trying to find a needle in a digital haystack, isn't it?
Well, here's the thing. They don't have to guess. They use a special search engine called Shodan, and one of the best ways to describe it is Google for hackers. Instead of looking for websites, Shodan is constantly scanning the entire internet 24/7, looking for connected devices. We're talking cameras, servers, heck, even power plants.
And this is what is so alarming. A hacker can type in a super simple search just like this one, which is basically just asking, hey, show me all the webcams in the US that are wide open on the internet. And boom, Shodan will spit back a list of thousands and thousands of login screens. From that point on,
It's just a game of trying a few of those default passwords we talked about.
But let's say you're smart. You change that default password. You're safe, right? Well, that brings us to the third, and honestly the most sinister play in the book, the hidden backdoor. And this is a vulnerability that you, as the owner, have absolutely zero control over. This really shows you the problem perfectly. You can do everything right. You can set a crazy complex password, just like the one here. But the issue is, some manufacturers build in a secret service account. It has a simple, hard-coded password that you cannot change. It's basically a permanent skeleton key to your own device, and you probably don't even know it exists. Okay, so we've talked about zombie armies of cameras breaking the internet. We've talked about secret backdoors built right in by the manufacturers. So what's the big takeaway here? What is the real risk we should be thinking about today? It all comes down to this. We have to stop thinking about these things as simple appliances. Every single device you connect to your network, it's a computer. And every computer is a potential door for an attacker to walk right through. And that's why doing things like keeping your firmware updated and choosing brands that actually care about security, it's not just a good idea, it's absolutely essential. So we've established, right? Your security camera is a computer. But what about your smart doorbell? What about your connected thermostat? Or yeah, even that brand new smart refrigerator. Every single one of them is a door into your digital life. And the only question you have to ask yourself is, are you sure it's locked?